All right, welcome back. So in the last video, we saw how we can find the coefficient of x if x is in the first term. In this video, we are going to, yep, you guessed it, we're going to see what happens if x is in the second term. Okay, so let's get straight into it. So if you look at this question over here, it's 1 minus 3x, the whole thing to the power 7. And it's the same question that you have to find the coefficient of x squared and the coefficient of x bar 5. Okay, so if I start expanding this, then immediately we discover a pattern. So we start by r equals to 0, of course. So 7c0, 1 to the power 7 minus 0, which is 7, and minus 3x to the power of 0. Okay, let's take r equals to 1, which means 7c1, 1 to the power of 6, minus 3x to the power of 1. And then we have r equals to 2, which means 7c2, 1 to the power 5, minus 3x to the power of 2. Okay, so if you look closely, you'll notice that whatever the value of r is, basically ends up being the power on x. Okay, so if r is 1, the power on x is 1. If r is 2, the power on x is 2. Okay, and that is due to the formula, the way the formula is structured. NCR A and minus R B, which means B is where our x will be if it's in the second term to the power R. So that means if you want the coefficient of x squared, all you got to do is, since x squared means the power on x is 2, just plug in r as 2, okay? And now we're going to write a special note, okay? And that is when x is in the second term, comma, the value of r is the required power of x. And that's it. The value of r is the required power of x. So like I said, if you want the coefficient of x squared, so that means the required power of x is 2. So you just plug in r as 2. Now let's work this out, see what do we get. So 7c2 into minus 3 squared. So into minus 3 squared. So what do we get is 189 x squared. And of course, since we're asked to find just the coefficient, so we'll stop at 189. Let me just double check. 7c2 is 21 into 9 is indeed 189. Okay, now the question doesn't end here. You still have to find out the coefficient of x bar 5. Okay, so for that, what we do is we continue and we jump straight to when r is equals to 5. Why? Because if I plug in 5, notice what happens. 7c5, 1 raised to the power 7 minus 5, which is 2, and minus 3x raised to the power of 5. Okay, now let's work this out, and you will notice that we end up with x bar 5. So 7c5 is 21 into minus 3, the whole thing to the power of 5. And this is equal to minus 5,103 x to the power 5. And as always, since we're only asked to find x bar 5, we'll stop at 5 minus 5103, and that becomes our final answer. Okay, now this was one example. To further strengthen our understanding, let's do another example. So here we have 3 minus 2x to the power 5. So if I want the coefficient of x squared, all I got to do is plug in r as 2. Now let's see what happens if I plug in r as 2. Sorry about that. 5c2 into 3 raised to the power 5 minus 2, which is 3, and minus 2x to the power of 2. Now if you work this out, you can see that you will actually end up with the coefficient of x squared. So 5c2 is 10 into 3 cubed, which is 27, into minus 2 squared, which is 4. So this becomes 1080 x squared. But since we want just the coefficient, we'll stop at 1080. And just like that, let's find out the coefficient of x bar 5, because that's what we have to do here, for which we'll use r as 5, which means 5c5, 3 raised to the power 0, which becomes 1, minus 2x to the power of 5. So 5c5 is 1, and so is 3 to the power 0. Minus 2 raised to the power 5 is minus 32, and x to the power 5. And the final answer becomes minus 32. So long story short, if x is in the second term, the value of r is basically the required power of x. Okay. Now, in the next video, we will look at some exceptions, okay, where you can't just straight away use this rule, and we will learn a new method which we can apply to find out whatever the coefficient of x it is that we are asked to, or whatever the coefficient of x raised to whatever power it is that we are asked to find. Okay, so that's a concept for the next video. So I'll see you guys then. Until then, take care. Bye-bye.